Well, starting out, we're going to talk about the Titans and see what we think they'll do with the number 1 overall pick. It's shaping up that they will likely should draft Cam Ward number 1 overall. Some people think they should trade back. Tristan, is drafting Cam Ward going to be the right call for the Titans, or what should they do with this pick?
I think they're in a situation where they have to draft Cam Ward.
They got to, right?
At this point. So me personally, and again, I haven't really dug into the tape. I've probably watched, 2 or 3 games of Ward and Shedeur Sanders. We'll talk about Sanders another episode, but I genuinely am just not a big fan of him. I wouldn't draft him to be my quarterback in the first round, maybe late in the first round. I just wouldn't do it. Cam Ward, even with Cam Ward, I'm skeptical on if he'll become a successful NFL quarterback. I think he might be too erratic. I think he might rely on his athleticism a little too much. However, hold that thought 1 second. Take a look down below and see if you're subscribed to the channel. If not, hit that red button and subscribe. Help out your 2 favorite idiots covering one sport, because don't you want to feel better about your sports opinions? When you watch him, his physical gifts, stuff like that, it does jump off the tape. And in a draft like this, he's the only quarterback I think you could even take a flyer on in the first round. There's some guys you could take in like the 3rd or 4th, but the debate to me was like, do the Titans even take a quarterback here? But I think when they're in this situation, Will Levis is your quarterback. You can't go into another season like that with him as your quarterback, because you do not know when you're going to be picking number 1 again. I don't think you can risk missing him, because here's the thing. If the Titans pass on Cam Ward or they trade down or something, and Cam Ward ends up being fantastic and saves somebody else's franchise, I mean, they'll never live it down. You have to do it.
So 2 things. 1, Cam Ward, does it remind you a little bit of the Anthony Richardson debate? Like it almost seems like everybody talks about his athleticism and everything, but have we seen enough sample size of him? I know we saw more than Anthony Richardson, obviously, but have we seen enough from him where we're justifying that he gets a starting role this year?
Yeah. Okay. So I don't hate that comparison. I do think, just from watching them both, I do think Cam Ward is a better quarterback than Anthony Richardson was even in college. I thought Anthony Richardson kind of was what he is now, and he had only started the 1 year. Cam Ward has been talented. He plays quarterback. My issues with Cam Ward kind of come in at him doing the Caleb Williams thing, where he's always the superior athlete, so he can always run around and keep plays alive and throw the ball and make amazing plays. That's great.
And then you meet a defensive line from the NFL.
Well, exactly. And then you meet the NFL, and I don't care. Yes, you can use those tools when they're available, but you have to use them like Lamar Jackson, like Mahomes, like Allen. If you can't stand in the pocket and play quarterback from the pocket, going through your reads and being accurate and on time and use anticipation, you will not be successful. I'm not saying he won't do that. I'm just saying that's the thing that worries me.
So second thing is, you mentioned that you don't know when you'll get a number 1 pick again. Well, there's some argument to be made that if you ride with Will Levis being your quarterback this year,
you might get it next year.
You may get it next year again. So,
but it might be a different coaching staff.
Yeah, but it could be a better quarterback.
No, I know.
But here's the thing: like, do you trade back? Because I got a Titans friend that's a buddy of mine, and he thinks they should trade back. He wants them to trade back. And then my question is like, okay, but you trade back to what? Like, what's the goal here? Are you just beefing up your line? Like, because that's what he thinks. He thinks you should trade back, get a better lineman, and then roll the dice on Will Levis, and then let's work on quarterback next year when hopefully it's a better draft class. I see his argument, but do you think it's the right move? Do you think there's any chance they do that?
So that I would see that argument if we had this QB class with last year's draft class, but there's just not a lot of superstars in this draft. I think it's Daniel Jeremiah. He said like his tagline for this draft is starters, not stars. There's a lot of players that are going to be, solid starters and impact players for teams, but there's not a lot of superstars. Obviously, there will be some surprises, but right now it just doesn't look like it. So why trade down? Because I've seen a lot of people say in this draft, you can get a guy at 17 that's basically equivalent to a guy that got drafted at 5. Yeah. Whatever. So I don't think you do, because Will Levis was just such a disaster last year, and it's more of if someone else gets Cam Ward, like why let him go from you? Because I understand that if there was a superstar offensive lineman, like you can make the argument, take Abdul Carter, get a dominant edge rusher or something like that, take Travis Hunter, okay. But I think whether it's fair or not, NFL franchises live and die by their quarterback. Bigger picture too, Ryan, this division, the AFC South, is kind of wide open. You know, the Texans are kind of in flux. The Jaguars are up in the air. The Colts are up in the air. Like, both of those teams are, you know, kind of disaster. So if Cam Ward came in and just was, you know, good. Now, I'm not even talking about like Jaden Daniels or something. If he just came in and was very solid and reliable, that immediately elevates your franchise to a level you haven't had in a few years.
Do you think Cam Ward could come in and be as good as, say, Sam Darnold? Because here's the question. If the answer is yes, then that automatically puts you, in my opinion, in the second place in this division, or at least it should if you're just basing off the quarterback, because obviously we know that C.J. Stroud is the best quarterback in this division. Even if they got Cam Ward, we know that C.J. Stroud's proven himself in this division. Yeah. So really, you're beating out Trevor Lawrence, which, let's be honest, him and Cohen, I don't know what that's going to look like.
Yeah, and he's been terrible. Trevor Lawrence has been terrible. I think, and Anthony Richardson, obviously, not much to be excited about. I think, yes, just the athletic ability of Cam Ward alone and his arm talent, his speed, you know, if you can refine him and just make him play quarterback from the pocket, I think he could succeed. It really just comes down to coaching for me. And like we know a lot of quarterbacks, it kind of depends on landing spots. You watch Cam Ward's tape, there's a lot of good, there's a lot of reckless, but there is a lot of promise. And in this draft, he's the just no doubt quarterback one. So that's it though. It's like, do you want to take a quarterback or not? And I think at this point with Will Levis, with the roster you have, I know they need a lot of work, but picking number one, to me, it's malpractice not taking this quarterback. And I think that's the way they're going. Everyone in the league seems to think they've pretty much decided this already.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's probably the smartest move for him, or at least the safest.
You can't not draft him and him be a superstar. You cannot do it.
One where you don't have as much egg on your face, you know, like this is that pick.
No one's going to judge you for drafting Cam Ward and him not working out.
Right.
You do that. Nothing is going to happen to you because of that.
You always get a pass on first-round quarterbacks. I've said it for a long time that they typically don't pan out. Like, the odds are significantly not in your favor of a first-round panning out. We've seen that so many times, and I've been saying it for years. But nobody ever is going to hold you accountable because the hype is built around them, and everybody thinks you should. You do it, and it doesn't pan out. They're like, well, you tried. Like,
and the price of the position is so inflated. If you want to get a good one, you have to take one in the top 5, top 10. You just have to. And
odds are you're going to be able to offload that first-round quarterback to somebody and still get something out of it.
Sure.
So, you know, here's what I'll say. You mentioned reckless. Caleb Williams played that way in college football. You know, he acted like Superman because he could.
Right.
So what these guys have to do in college when everything is, they can kind of play like an all-star player if you play a video game, right? Like you can just do miraculous things because you're going up against, honestly, let's be for real, a lot of times subpar talent, most talent that won't make it to the NFL ever. So where you have to transition is, can you put that cape down? Can you put the Superman cape down and play tried and true smash mouth football? That's where the test is for all these guys coming into the league. And we see very few be able to do it, especially their first year. Jaden Daniels is one of those exceptions, one of the best rookies we've ever seen.
But even when you go back and watch him in college, like he was not, like he played from the pocket mostly. Right. Like, yeah, he would run when it was available, but he was delivering the ball in the pocket. And Ward does too. It's not like he's running all the time. His thing is more kind of like the Caleb Williams. It's thinking he can evade every sack. Anytime there's pressure, he can run around for 30 seconds and find somebody open. And then he also throws a lot of balls that it's like, what were you thinking? What were you looking at? I just don't know if that's something you can coach out of him. Maybe you can. We've seen it happen. We've seen it not happen. I had that concern with Caleb Williams. I have it with Ward. But with that said, I would still take him number one. You have to if you're in the Titans situation.
Well, you've seen that with, like you said, Caleb Williams. You know, we saw it with Tua to some degree. Like he could throw these deep balls in college ball, and the deep ball's just not there for him in the NFL. And so he kind of restructured his playing style and falling style too. But there's a lot of other quarterbacks that did things in college that they had to completely scrap and reinvent themselves almost in the NFL. So the question is Cam Ward able to do that? And if he is, how far does that take the Titans down the road? Is it number 2? Do they overstep the Texans? I don't think so, but I think they could get into that number 2 slot. And I mean, there's a very slim possibility they make it into the wild card, but there's always a chance, you know, just depending on how they structure that team going forward. I don't think it happens, but I do think Cam Ward has the potential to be a really, really good quarterback. Not up to Jaden Daniels level, but I think better than Caleb Williams.
Yeah, for sure. Then if you're drafting him, that's what you're banking on. You have to do it. What you have with Will Levis. At least Cam Ward, he gives you another, spin of the wheel.